Mental triggers, the web of madness. The late 1960s in the United States was a time of upheaval. The Vietnam War raged on, civil rights movements challenged the status quo, and a generation searched for meaning beyond materialism. Amidst this cultural storm, the Beatles, already the most famous band in the world, embarked on a spiritual journey to India. Drawn by the teachings of Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, they sought enlightenment, but instead they found disillusionment. The Beatles in India. In early 1968, the Beatles traveled to Rishikesh to study transcendental meditation. During their stay, they composed many songs that would later form the White Album, but the utopian vision crumbled. Rumors spread that Maharishi had made advances toward a female student, and John Lennon, deeply affected, wrote Sexy Sadie, originally titled Maharishi, as a bitter farewell. Dear Prudence was written about Prudence Farrow, who became obsessed with meditation, retreating into near isolation. Lennon's closest confidant in this period was Alexis Mardas, known as Magic Alex. Mardas, jealous of the guru's influence over Lennon, reportedly fed the rumors of impropriety. Lennon and George Harrison left India in a state of doubt, and Paul McCartney later apologized to Maharishi, questioning whether they had been manipulated. Lennon collaborated with Magic Alex on What's the New Mary Jane, but later stripped him of credit, an omen of what was to come for another aspiring musician, Charles Manson. The White Album and a frustrated artist. Back in England, the Beatles immersed themselves in recording the White Album, an eclectic mix of fragmented genius and raw emotion. At the same time, across the ocean, Charles Manson, an aspiring musician, had ingratiated himself with Dennis Wilson of the Beach Boys. Manson's song Cease to Exist was taken by Wilson, reworked as Never Learn Not to Love, and released without Manson's credit. The rejection fueled his delusions. Mental triggers and hidden messages. Manson believed the White Album was a coded prophecy of an impending race war, helter skelter. The paranoia that drove him to orchestrate the brutal Tate LaBianca murders was fueled by perceived messages in the Beatles' lyrics. But Manson wasn't alone in finding dangerous meaning in art. Mark David Chapman, the man who would later assassinate John Lennon, carried a copy of The Catcher in the Rye, a novel that has surfaced in multiple high-profile crimes. Chapman, like John Hinckley Jr., who attempted to assassinate Ronald Reagan, saw himself as a version of Holden Caulfield, a protector against phoniness and corruption. Travis Bickle, the protagonist of Taxi Driver, shares this same archetype, a lone avenger seeking moral justice. The Dakota Building in Dark Omens. Lennon was murdered outside the Dakota, an apartment building steeped in eerie legends. It was the filming location of Rosemary's Baby, directed by Roman Polanski, whose wife Sharon Tate was murdered by Manson's followers. The building has long been associated with strange occurrences, only adding to the mystique surrounding the events. The CIA, MkUltra, and Monarch Mind Control. The connections between assassinations, mental conditioning, and art as a trigger for violence go beyond coincidence. During the height of the Cold War, the CIA engaged in secret experiments under the name Project MkUltra, a classified operation aimed at controlling human behavior through drugs, hypnosis, and psychological manipulation. Subjects were often unaware they were being experimented on, with LSD and sensory deprivation among the methods used to break down their psyches. Some researchers believe that figures like Mark David Chapman, Sirhan Sirhan, Robert Kennedy's assassin, and John Hinckley Jr. could have been influenced by MkUltra techniques, unknowing pawns in a larger game of psychological warfare. Connected to MkUltra was Project Monarch, a rumored program that allegedly focused on trauma-based mind control. Victims were supposedly conditioned through abuse, media programming, and symbolic triggers to become sleepers, individuals who could be activated by certain stimuli, like words, phrases, or even pieces of art. Some theories suggest that Charles Manson himself may have been a subject of these experiments. The late 1960s saw the proliferation of LSD among counterculture groups, and it's been proposed that Manson and his followers were among those unknowingly exposed to government-backed psychedelic research, making them perfect candidates for manipulation. Could The Catcher in the Rye have been one such trigger? The book was found on Chapman at the time of Lennon's assassination and has been linked to multiple assassins. Was Charles Manson's delusion truly his own, or was he influenced by a deeper hidden force? Could the White Album have been a catalyst, not by design, but through a convergence of psychological vulnerabilities and external programming? The King in Yellow and the Madness of Art. The idea that art can induce madness is older than the White Album or The Catcher in the Rye. In The King in Yellow, Robert W. Chambers wrote about a forbidden play that drove its readers insane. The book, a precursor to Lovecraft's cosmic horror, suggests that some knowledge is too dangerous to comprehend, much like the secret messages Manson, Chapman, and others believed they had uncovered in music and literature. The King in Yellow exists within the narrative as a play so dangerous that its second act is said to drive people to madness. This concept resonates with the idea of subliminal triggers hidden within media. The unsettling feeling evoked by The King in Yellow mirrors how some conspiracy theorists view The Catcher in the Rye, Helter Skelter, and other works that have allegedly influenced violent minds. The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, the birth of cinematic mind control. One of the earliest films to explore psychological manipulation is The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, 1920. The film tells the story of a hypnotist who commands a sleepwalker to commit murders, an unsettling parallel to the idea of MkUltra and Monarch programming. The film's visual style, with distorted sets and warped perspectives, mirrors the fractured minds of its characters, reinforcing the theme of mental control. Could this silent film have foreshadowed the mechanisms later used in real-world psychological experiments? The themes of mind control, hypnotic suggestion, and manipulated perception seen in Caligari persist in modern discussions of media influence and brainwashing. The final threads. From the Beatles' Indian journey to the madness of Charles Manson, from Holden Caulfield's disillusionment to the eerie shadows of the Dakota, a pattern emerges: art as a trigger for obsession, delusion, and violence. But was this merely coincidence, or something more? Are these patterns evidence of hidden forces at play? Or is the human mind simply drawn to madness when searching for meaning in chaos? What do you think? Can certain works truly alter minds? Or is the madness already inside us, waiting for a spark?